This is News 13 at 6.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us in for news tonight. I'm Amy Hoyt.
And I'm Jerry Brown. Hurricane Michael continues.
Like most of you, News 13 team members watched as Hurricane Michael approached and waited.
So we're going to see this thing bend off to the west and then come back to the east. That's absolutely a terrible scenario for where this thing has it projected. If this is the case, we can expect extremely large storm surge and wind-driven water and rain into the bend of our coastal area.
Didn't think much of it. We've been through it a time or two, or 5, or 20. So you're just like, you know what? If it's going to come, it's going to be a big thunderstorm, with lots of rain. And so didn't really think much of it.
I've loved tropical weather since I was a kid. That's why I left the Midwest to come to the South to study tropical weather. And I had a little bit of a taste of it when I was in Louisiana, but I got a full-blown meal by the time I got here. So, yeah.
And like we said, this is the beginning of the storm, so it is just starting to really get out there, and we're already seeing these significant, almost 1,000 outages.
Yep. So as Michael began to increase in strength, it became apparent it would take a physical and emotional toll on all who decided to stay.
Well, I was on the desk with Chris, and we were watching it all morning, and I really didn't think much of it because it was a 2, and then all of a sudden it was a 3, and then it was a 4. And all morning I was pretty calm, but once it became a Category 4 is kind of when I realized we're in trouble.
We're going to have a lot of tree loss. We're going to have a change in our coastline, and you're going to go to places and you're not going to recognize where you are.
I'm thinking this is really going to happen, and there's no way to stop it.
And the mood really just was, I don't want to say somber, but it really was, because we knew what was coming at us and what was going to happen.
Today's weather is not going to be that bad, not going to keep you from preparing. So today is the day to prepare. This is a system that won't be like the last 2. This is something to take very seriously because it could be a very impactful event as we go throughout Tuesday and Wednesday. And we'll look at our futurecast here. You notice all the showers and storms conditions start to deteriorate throughout the day on Tuesday. By early 5 a.m. on Wednesday, we could be watching Hurricane Michael.
Staff members checked on their families, then prepared for Michael's approach.
When I came back here at 4 o'clock in the morning, he was heading out of town to meet them. And he texted and said, "We're never going to be separated again. This one's going to be bad. This is the big one." And so next thing I know, I get a phone call an hour later. He had turned around. He said the highway patrol must have thought he was nuts. He was the only one heading south coming back into Panama City. And he ended up in the building with us here, even though we're really not supposed to have family members. I broke a rule first time in 25 years, and he was here with the dog. So I had my husband with me, and of course the kids watching on the stream long distance from Alabama. We're glad that we were together.
The team continued to give updates as the storm moved ashore and overhead.
So a very powerful Category 4 hurricane moving in, and we just had that little band right here move through, and we're getting ready to get another little band. So as we zoom in, we had this band move through just a few minutes ago, and we had winds gusting up over 45 miles per hour here at the station. Being on camera, you try to stay composed, and you try to explain your message and what's going on as clearly and as calmly as possible, because you don't want somebody on the opposite side of the camera thinking that you're scared or that you're freaked out.
As Michael passed over the News 13 studios in downtown Panama City, the staff began to feel the unbelievable impact of a Category 5 hurricane. Wind gust 117 and a sustained 97 of FSUPC.
And we're feeling it. It sounds like the train is coming over the roof of the TV station. I mean, our building is shaking, and this is an old cement building, and we're feeling it now. It's everything it was promised to be.
Don't
dangerous,
you know?
devastating, and life-threatening.
It was just loud. And so anytime the camera wasn't directly on me, I was standing either here over the green screen or wherever I was in the studio, just full body tensed. And I was just trying to breathe and relax, and because I knew the camera was going to come back on me and that I needed to be calm at that moment. Looking at the following building.
So not far from the TV station, somebody's lost the roof.
The roof is gone.
And I see the roof of the United Way rip off. And then I see our roof bouncing up and down. And I did not think we were safe in this building. I won't lie. We ran to the newsroom. We're all huddled in there, and it was traumatizing. I think a lot of us didn't think we were going to get out of this building.
Sure is.
History-making storm.
No doubt about it. Or, oh, just lost power. You can hear us, but you can't see us, maybe. Our lights are out in the studio. If you can still hear us, this is what we're sitting in darkness at the moment. Emergency lights are on. We do have a generator, but I guess that's been struggling this afternoon too with the high winds. You can
Dark
probably
in
hear
the
the beeping
studio.
in the background. Yep.
Dark, if you can still hear us, we're still here. The storm is still blowing over. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Hang
on, everybody out of the studio. Amy, Jerry, come on.
Out of the studio. Let's go.
All right, we're leaving the studio right now. We're leaving the studio.
Even after the station went off the air, our team continued to broadcast on social media from inside the newsroom.
All right. Well, I'm going to be the mom. I'm going to ask people to pray for us. I pray for everybody in Bay County and who's going through this. I'm scared. We're safe, but I'm scared. And a lot of folks are texting, so we're okay, but the prayers are needed.
We have a good, solid evacuation plan in place. We have a strong building right next to us. If we have to leave this building, we'll go into that building.
Yeah, we're all together in the newsroom right now. We're just keeping the watch on everything.
We have a good plan in place, and we're waiting on this to pass.
We didn't know who could, watch or hear us, but we still had to do our job. We continued to do our job to serve our folks out there. As the water came in the ceiling in the newsroom, is the ceiling coming down? We didn't know, but.
And then we were in the dark, waiting on the storm to pass us by.
And I texted goodbyes to my parents. Thank God they did not go through.
I was pretty scared. I mean, me personally, I was just praying the whole time.
I lost it. The emotions, all of a sudden I realized we have a newsroom full of young people who have never been through a storm before. And they're looking to me, but I turned into the mom. And that's where the emotions came flooding out until we got back on the air the next day.
During that whole time, for a few seconds, I'm thinking about my wife and daughter at home. They wrote it out. During that time, I'm thinking about my wife and daughter at home in Lynn Haven in a closet, hoping, praying they're good. But just for a few seconds, I had to get back doing the job, providing the information for folks out there.
Although we tell stories for a living, it's hard to find the words to describe the devastation Hurricane Michael left behind.
Jaw-dropping.
There's just no possible way that the human imagination can imagine the kind of destruction that these storms do.
It looked like a bomb had been dropped on the whole city.
Yeah, that moment I'll never forget, standing on top of that parking garage and looking around and going, wow.
Some of us lost our homes and had to find help, many of us seeking shelter with family members or co-workers.
I was displaced for an entire month while I searched for new housing. And thankfully, our management here was able to put me and 5 others up together while we dealt with our own living situation.
And I got to my place and it was fine. The only thing I could think is, I gotta help somebody that's in town come out here and they've got to take advantage of this. I said, how are you doing? They said, oh, I'm fine. I said, well, how's your place? Oh, well, I can see the sky through my bed when I'm laying on the bed. And I'm like, you can't stay there. Like, you can't be in your home. Like, I have a place, I have extra room, come stay with me. So I was only putting myself in a situation that I would have wanted somebody to offer to me.
The next day, we came back to work in the midst of the destruction.
Whenever I would come back into Panama City, I'd cross the Hathaway Bridge, and it was like night and day. And it was emotional every single time. I cried every morning. It was nonstop tears for a couple weeks.
Trying to share information and help where we could.
They're giving out four 4 packs of water, so 4 good cases of water and 4 bags of ice per household.
And as far as immediately after the storm, it felt like my work was so important, and just any information we could get out, telling people where they can get food and gas and little things like that is really everything we were putting on air, getting online, anything out. It just felt like my work really mattered.
When we were in this neighborhood and stopped to see this woman who had said, hey, we're okay, but would like some water, and knocked on our door and we're talking to her, as we're doing that, literally behind me, because we're on a residential street, are firefighters doing urban search and rescue, going into the houses going, call out, you know, that's literally happening behind you. And it really is just such a strange feeling. Finding bits of hope in the midst of the crisis.
People stand in line with just a great attitude, telling story after story how their house was on the ground, but yet they still had smiles on their face. So that's one of the reasons we live here. I think it made us even a tighter community.
Kind enough to break away from the cleanup.
With some surprises along the way.
A lot of people didn't realize, and I wasn't really ready to share this information since it was so fresh and new, but I was 13 weeks pregnant at the time of all of this. At times it was stressful only because, you know, you're working long days, you're working long hours, it's hot, everyone's hungry. I was extra hungry.
Through it all, watching and working as the community comes together to rebuild.
Driving down 15th, turning on 98, that was tearful, but this is happy tears watching people join us in helping other people. We've realized that so many people do want to help. They just don't know where to get started.
Unfortunately, there's so many people out there still who are not in their homes.
We've come so far, but it's just crazy to see how far we haven't either at the same time. So it's encouraging but discouraging, and I don't know, I just wish that other people realized, you know, that this area still really is hurting a lot.
We've learned a lot.
I learned that I don't like hurricanes, which I'm pretty sure everybody can attest to.
I grew up in South Florida. I have always had the Floridian mentality. I think we're all guilty of it. Of a storm, it's just a hurricane. We have hurricane parties, we don't take it seriously. I will never do that again. I learned that a hurricane is a force to be reckoned with, and it can destroy lives.
When we say get a plan, we're not kidding. You got to get a plan for everything, because it's going to make a difference those first 2 weeks.
A year later, and we're still Panhandle strong.
We're all in this together. We have support from here all the way to Washington, and it's just trying to give that encouragement that we'll get through this day and tomorrow and the weeks to come.
We do this to inform our community and to help our community every day, 7 days a week. A situation like this comes up, and I've encountered folks today who said, we watched you right up to the very end, the coverage that you did. Thank you all for being there. Thank you for trying to help us and everything. And see, we've gone from before to after. This is the aftermath now, and we're trying to continue to help our community. That's our job, and we serve our community and inform, and the days on out, the best we can do to help you folks out.